Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Eden Road podcast, where on today's show, we're going to be looking back at victory at Bournemouth in the final away day of the season. Also briefly going to look ahead to Newcastle on Sunday. Joining me for that is Craig. Craig, how are we, mate?
Yeah, pleasure as always. Enjoy being here.
Good stuff. Dan, how are we?
Yeah, all good. Lovely little away day.
It really was. It really was. We're going to get into it just before we get going, guys. Remember to drop a comment down below, subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels, and also give us a follow on our socials. That's at the Eden Road on Twitter and at Ealing Road Pod on Instagram. Tweet of the week this week, I think it's between two very different tweets. One coming before kickoff, which I'm sure a lot of people saw. Talk Bees, who has on many occasions this season, at Talk Bees, who has on many occasions this season, leaked the lineup before it actually came out. He's in the mud, boys. He's really in the mud, and fair play. And I think he's taken it. I don't know who this person is. I think it's a bit of a
you, Mike, really, isn't it? You're the one that's in the know.
Yeah, but I don't go leaking the bloody lineups every week. But yeah, he's been found out. I think he tweeted before the game that Ivan Toney was benched. And then the Brentford admin had a bit of fun before the game to kind of, in the same format that he tweeted out with two emojis, confirmed that Ivan Toney would be in the lineup. So that was quite funny. Everyone had a laugh at whoever that person is. But for me, I think tweet of the week this week, very different end of the tweet of the week in terms of sort of them normally being quite funny. But this one comes from Brentford, with the club announcing after full time on Saturday that Thomas Frank lost his father on Friday morning before the game. I think we all saw that kind of touching tribute from the players after Brian scored the first, when they all ran over Thomas Frank and they had a nice little celebration together. And Craig, you alerted me before we started recording that there's been a forum on the GPG about their potentially, I think they're trying to spread awareness around the 78th minute of the home game against Newcastle on Sunday. Yeah. There's going to be a minute's applause for Thomas Frank's father. What did you make of that, boys, after seeing that tweet? I just thought it was really nice. I couldn't believe that he was there, to be honest, having it been so soon after his father dying on Friday morning to then go to Bournemouth. But Craig, what was your thoughts?
Seeing the celebration, it kind of caught us by surprise. It was like, oh, I wonder what's happened. Something must have happened. You don't really put kind of two and two together when it comes to, unfortunately, people passing away and family members passing. But I've got the utmost respect for Thomas Frank, and if he had said that he can't be there for that game, no one would have had a grudge at him at all. Obviously, family comes first over football, so condolences to Thomas and all of his family, and hopefully he's well.
100%. I want to talk about this as well, Dan, because I saw a quote tweet and I tried my best to find it. But I think that tweet that Brentford did is like kind of blown up. I thought I saw earlier it's got like 30,000 favourites or something like that. So I tried to find the quote tweet, but I think someone, must have been a Brentford fan, said that Thomas Frank deserves a statue outside the ground if he was ever to leave Brentford. What do you make of that, Dan?
Well, he would be first in line probably. In our history, apart from ever since World War II, essentially, he's been our most successful manager. What we've done in the last few years since we got promoted, it can't be underestimated. We're always seeing teams coming up, going back down of similar sizes to us. The fact he still got us here, and this is the year we've struggled in, yet we still find ourselves, almost on 40 points, and doing pretty well. And we're quite comfortable. And yeah, I agreed. He didn't need to be there on Saturday. It wasn't a big game in terms of what was riding on it. It was one of probably the games in the last 3 years with the very least riding on it. But it shows his commitment to the club and his commitment to the team. I'm not sure if he did his press conference on Friday, but it wouldn't have surprised me if he did, because he is that committed, and you can see how together everyone is, and he's part of creating that culture and creating that environment around the team. And a massive part of why we're where we are now.
100%. I think we do criticize Thomas Frank. We do criticize the players. That's kind of our job as fans, as people that do a podcast. But I mean, this season especially, we've kind of spoken about it. Thomas Frank's been dealt a really shit hand in terms of the injuries that we've had and how many days we've lost because of those injuries, and just the nature of them, the key players. But if you look at Thomas Frank's tenure at Brentford as a whole, I know that he lost 8 out of his first 10, but from taking over to defeating the playoff final against Fulham during COVID, to promotion the following season, to now our 4th season in the Premier League, it is some job that Thomas Frank has done. And I I think there was a few shouts on the GPG about, or maybe Twitter even, I think someone might have tweeted us once upon a time saying we should do like a special episode just on Thomas Frank's tenure, just on the best memories.
Could easily fill an hour.
Yeah, we could easily do that. And maybe this summer wouldn't be the right time. I think that the right time to do that episode maybe be when he moves on, if he moves on. We could definitely do sort of an hour just dissecting some of the best memories, some of the worst memories. But I think you're absolutely right, Dan. He'll be first in line if there was ever going to be a statue of a Brentford manager or player outside the ground. Thomas Frank, especially in recent years, would be right up there. Let's move on to Bournemouth, boys. Initial reaction to the result, Craig. We'll do that first, and then we've got some specifics. We'll break down the goals. We'll look at some players. But yeah, initial reaction to the result.
Well, I'm going to kind of kill two birds with one stone here, because I wanted to bring up a point about something that you just said about Thomas Frank and the kind of hand that he's been dealt this season. Just a stat for you. We are currently further away from the bottom three now than we were when we finished our first season in the Premier League. So although we've been absolutely injury-riddled this season, currently 13 points above the bottom three, with the possibility of finishing 16 points above the bottom three if we beat Newcastle and Luton lose, we finished 11 points above the bottom three in our first season. And I think that it kind of, maybe one does show the level of the Premier League this season hasn't been fantastic, but the cards that he has been dealt, he's dealt with fantastically going on to this game. Now, I was a bit surprised to see KLP come in. I thought we would see the exact same lineup as we did against Fulham. I fully expected Ivan to start, given what we said in the last game, after the last game as well. But yeah, no, I'm not really surprised. I think KLP deserves that start, and he had a bright start and did well and showed his worth. And then Wissa obviously does what he does best when he comes off the bench as well. So no surprises really.
I thought KLP did start against Fulham.
I think it was the same lineup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it? Oh, was it? Sorry. I thought, no, that's how boring that game was. I purged it from memory already.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Dan, a reaction to the result?
Yeah, well, I mean, for 85 minutes, it looked like it was going to be the same repeat from the last 2 weeks. It started again quite lively, then almost seemed to fizzle out again. Just the final ball, again, from both teams, really, was lacking. And it was, again, another game between two teams that didn't have a lot to play for. But then it came to life at the end. And the goals were very, very good, especially from our perspective. And it was the perfect away day, really, to end it all. The sun was shining. It was near the beach. It felt like a summer sort of tour game rather than like a Premier League game. It was quite strange in that aspect, but it was probably the perfect away game to finish on in terms of the overall atmosphere. And obviously, we got a good result at the end of it as well.
100%. I'm glad that I was going to talk about just the away day in general towards the end, but I'm glad that you mentioned it now because you're absolutely right. Perfect away day, I think. I woke up at 6:30 on a Saturday to get to Bournemouth for like 11 o'clock. And I was thinking beforehand, I was like, why the hell are we going 4 hours before kickoff? You get there, we went to the place that we were drinking at before the match, overlooking the beach on a terrace with a beer, sun shining. It was the perfect, and you get a last minute winner. I think that might go down as one of my favourite ever away days, just purely for the vibes. Like besides the result, obviously teams didn't really have anything to play for, but for the vibes before kickoff, for the atmosphere in the ground as well, it was just like the atmosphere was brilliant. It was almost like a party day, which I really enjoyed. But let's talk about the football. Quite a fast start from us. Craig, you've already mentioned KLP. He looked really busy down the left, but Bournemouth did grow into it. I think there is something with a couple of VAR incidents. And the first one was VAR. The second one was just a bit of a blunder by the ref. I don't think Bournemouth fans can have anything to complain about with the first one. It does bounce up off his hand. And with the rules these days, I think if it bounced off someone's hands and then it lead up to a goal, it's pretty much always going to get chalked off. But I think the second one, Craig, if I was a Bournemouth fan, I'd be a bit pissed off. I didn't think that was a foul on Collins. I think he goes down far too easily. And I think there definitely would have been some question marks of Flecken if that had counted, because it's almost like, I know you're about to disagree with me, but it's almost like, I don't know.
He's heard the whistle, so he's left it. Let's just leave it at that. Flecken has heard the whistle, so he has left the ball. When you watch the highlights, he completely leaves it behind. He didn't make any attempt for it because he heard the whistle. Let's just nip that in the bud now. I found a Bournemouth log of the game on Saturday, and they happened to catch the whole first Solanke goal, the VAR goal, on camera. And as soon as is it Semenyo? I don't know who it is that gets past Regulon. they're going, that was handball. That was handball. If this goes in, this goes to the AR. So they knew straight away that was going to be disallowed. But and I don't think there was any arguments. He's got a clear advantage from knocking the ball past Reguilon. Granted, it was by accident, but it is a clear advantage from a handball. I don't think that Aya did Collins any favours with that little touchdown either. If he'd have just kind of hooked it away, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Collins does need to be a bit stronger, but at the end of the day, the referee blew his whistle. So if it was us that was penalised, yes, I'd be seething to say the least. But we haven't had much fortune, I don't think, with referees and decisions this season. So I'll take it.
I was just about to say, I think there's only been a couple of times this season where I think we've got lucky with some of the decisions, whereas most of them I think have gone against us. But not really too much to talk about from the first half. Like I said, Bournemouth did grow into it and probably had the better of the second half of the first half. But onto the second half, I did have the feeling, although there was no goals and it remained goalless for so long, I did think that there was going to be a goal. Before that, we should discuss the Tony penalty incident straight away. After he went down, I turned to the Brentford fan next to me and he said to me it was soft. I said it looked incredibly soft. I think the main question everyone was asking at the time was, why didn't he shoot first time? And that question's been asked again on Twitter a lot of times that I see. Danny, at the moment, he's just in a run of form where, compared to last season, he just does not look confident when he's been in those situations. And it was just weird because he kind of feels the contact, goes down straight away, and then immediately gets back up. But I don't think his first touch helped him. But it was almost as if, and it was a kind of pattern of the whole game, I felt like the away end was kind of just waiting for him to make a mistake. It was almost like vindication, because in my head, I didn't want him to make a mistake, but I was just like, when he makes that mistake, you know that the whole way end's going to be pissed off at him. But what was your view on that penalty incident, Dan? It was weird.
It almost happened in slow motion because I feel like he had a lot of time to just get a shot away, and anyone else probably would have, and he probably would have in the past. I just felt he was trying to buy the penalty. And when you do that, there's always a risk that you end up putting your leg into them, or there's not enough contact and you go down too easily because you're looking for the penalty. And he probably thought, that was the easiest way to, end his goal drought. I thought in general, he looked very unfit, I thought, in the second half. Several times he was just like this, the last one to get back into play. He was crouching down. He just looked shattered and unfit and just not sharp at all. And it's really strange, I think, because even if a player was injured for 9-10 months, normally by now, they'll be getting more into a rhythm again. And it is very strange with him. It's very strange with him. I mean, in the away end, there were songs about Igor Thiago.
I know.
And any other striker. Neil Maupay, I think, came up. He wasn't even on the bench. So, yeah, I did get the feeling that people were waiting for him to make a mistake, and I don't think he would have been a very popular scorer. And I'm interested to see what he may have done if he did score in terms of in front of the away end. So I'm quite glad in a way that it was Brian and Wissa that got the goals. Yeah,
exactly. I even sort of at full time when the players came over, he was right at the back. Didn't really seem too interested in the kind of big deal that the other players were making of the win. Obviously, Reguilon came straight over. Brian came straight over. We'll get onto Reguilon because there's more clamours for him to be signed over the summer. We really needed Callum for this episode for another Rico Henry at right back special, but it is just weird. His body language just doesn't look up for it. Do you know what I'd really like though? And I was thinking about it earlier. It would be great if Tony. I don't think this will happen, but if he got the mic from Thomas Frank on Sunday and said something along the lines of, "Look, I know I've said a lot of stupid shit in interviews, but I've really enjoyed my time at Brentford or whatnot." But I just know that's really wishful thinking. But I know that a lot of fans would appreciate that. Do you know what I mean?
If that happens, I want the lottery numbers, mate.
That's all he needs to do, really, to
exactly.
gain some sort of confidence back in the fans. I'll clap him off then. I won't. I'll wish him well. I'll still probably wish him well anyway. But I'd respect him a lot more, and it doesn't take much to do that.
Exactly. A few words just to say I've made some mistakes, but I think that might be wishful thinking on my part. Let's continue. Wissa came on, and like you said, Craig changed the game, and I do think Thomas Frank needs to get a shout out as well for the formation change. I couldn't believe that we had Ivan, Wissa, Brian, and Sharda all on the pitch at the same time. It was like almost like a 4-2-4 formation that we were playing towards the end. But more fuel to the argument that Wissa is better as a sub. A lot more fuel. It was weird with Wissa. He's kind of up and down. He's very much a confidence player. But Craig, first of all, what a pass from Mark Flecken. I'll hand over to you because goalkeeper Craig, goalkeeper Union. And second of all, unbelievable touch from Wissa to put it on a plate for Brian.
It's bar the City goal that we scored this season at home. That was probably arguably the most Route 1 goal and the most effective Route 1 goal that we've scored this season. A long ball from the goalkeeper, which was a pinpoint pass to Wissa. And what a first touch that was from Wissa, by the way. Absolutely incredible. Straight in the path of Brian. Brian takes that touch just a little bit away from him, and you're thinking, oh, bugger it. He's taken that touch a little bit too heavy, but he catches up, cuts it back across the goalkeeper, which is obviously the right thing to do. But that was a fantastic ball, fantastic touch. Everything about that goal was actually very Ivan Toney-esque goal that we scored there, where it was such a Route 1 goal compared to the second one in which we there was a little bit more build-up play with the ball from Brian through, which we'll go on to. But it was incredibly Route 1, but it was the most perfect Route 1 goal that we could have scored.
Mm-hmm. Pinpoint. That was David Raya-esque, that kind of distribution on a plate for Wissa. And beautiful goal.
Let's be honest with ourselves. Throughout the whole season, Flecken's distribution has been one of, if not his strongest point. He obviously didn't start very well. He was a bit cagey himself, and he came out and said he's not in the right headspace. And since that City game, he's just been unbelievable. But one thing that we can't take away from him is this season, his distribution has been fantastic. Never once with the ball at his feet have I been worried that he's going to make a mistake.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think we can agree on that. I saw after the game, Jay tweet Brian's 50th goal for Brentford. 15 goals and assists this season, Dan, in 24 games. Imagine if he was fit the whole season. It was another masterclass from Brian, and we spoke about it last week that he struggles for consistency, and I think that's probably the hardest part of maybe being like a footballer at the top level is being consistent. And that's what kind of separates the best from the good. But if he can be like he was against Luton and like he was on Saturday, 3 weeks out of 4, then you do have a European level footballer there, someone that can play in those positions. And like Jay says, if he was fit the whole season, didn't pick up that ankle injury against Brighton, he's got 15 goals and assists this season in 24 games. That's an unbelievable record for a team that has been struggling throughout the whole season, pretty much.
Yeah, if you look at his numbers year on year, I think it's evident more with him than anyone else, his improvement every year. Obviously, this year you might have to convert it to, goals per minute or goals per 90 minutes, given that he may have scored a similar amount last season, but in a lot more games. I think you can easily see the progress he's made over the years. And I actually thought he was relatively quiet, but so was many of our attackers until towards the end of that game. But, 2 big contributions to the goal. Him and Wissa, I think, work very well. And it's a positive, a massive positive. I mean, I also heard that he's got only 7 players since 2019 have more assists in the Premier League than him. And we weren't even playing in the Premier League in 2019. So, he's up there with one of the best players in his position. And you do think, if Salah leaves Liverpool, that is probably someone that I think they could do with looking at. Not that I want them to, but I think that they could do.
Yeah, 100%. Looked like it looked like that would be it. What I was trying to say there. It looked like that would be it, but we concede yet another from a header in injury time. I'm not sure if I'd have any complaints about it. It was a rare moment, Craig, where Pinnock slightly probably misjudges the flight of the ball, but I think having watched it back, it is a perfect leap and a perfect header from Solanke, and Solanke's been in red hot form all season long. So I didn't really have too much complaints. Did you with the goal?
Nah, I mean, the only argument might be that the ball needs to be shut down quicker before it comes into the box. But I mean, I don't think that we're in any place to be criticising Ethan Pinnock over what he's done this season. So yeah, just a rare moment. Solanke does really well, gets up high, and it's a great header. It's a fantastic header. Back across the goalie into that far corner. Yeah, no complaints really.
Would you say Solanke deserves to be in the Euros ahead of Ivan Toney?
Yes.
In the squad? Yeah.
Does he deserve to be? Does he deserve to be? Yes. Will he?
Will
No.
it be? No.
No.
Yeah.
If Southgate stuck to his guns and selected players based on form, then Dom Solanke is arguably the second choice to Harry Kane, isn't he? Based on form, I can't think of another English striker that's had a season that Dom
Ollie
Solanke had.
Watkins.
Mhm.
Other than Watkins, but Watkins can also play as that wide player, can't he, as well? So he's a bit more versatile than I would say Dom Solanke is. But do I think he'll go? No, Southgate just has this thing for Ivan, doesn't he? Same way Thomas Frank does. So I think Ivan goes.
Yeah, there was a very funny comment in our comment section last week about Thomas Frank and Ivan Toney and potentially Southgate as well. So if you wanted to have a giggle, there was definitely a very funny comment back in the last episode. So go and check that. I'm not going to repeat on this because don't want to get in trouble with the club. But anyway, Brian and Wissa link up for our winner. That Brian and Wissa link up has been unbelievable. It was the first goal and the second goal, but that's again that finish from Wissa, Dan, kind of adds more weight to the argument where we say if there's one player you want to go through in that kind of position or any kind of position when someone's bearing down on goal, it's probably Johan Wissa.
Yeah, and again from quite a tight angle, the only place that he could really put it to maximise the chances of scoring was into the roof of the net, and I think that type of finish is probably technically quite difficult because you got to keep it. It's very easy to probably just sky it over the bar or not catch it completely right, and he's there when we need him. I think he's had his best season in terms of goals, and if you break it his stats down to goals per 90 minutes, it's probably quite strong because he doesn't start every game. He's often on the bench. He went to AFCON. I genuinely think I prefer him down the middle, and I can see next season, we have Igor Thiago is probably a different profile, a bit more of a target man. So maybe you might favour him against the top teams. But then, in some games, you might want Wissa up front against maybe teams that we feel that we can play more of our football against and, go toe to toe with. And I think those are two very good options. Obviously, we don't know what Igor Thiago would be like, but at least we can fall back on, we know Wissa now. And, I think if he's, the first choice striker at the club, if he was to be, you could easily see, 15, maybe 20 goals in him in a season. And, that's what we need to replace someone like Ivan Toney. So, yeah, you can't criticise him, I think. Very good goal.
Anything else from the game action itself we want to talk about before we get into the players? I know we're gonna chat about Sergio Reguilon in quite a bit of detail. Anything, Craig?
Maybe just a point that we've made previously about the importance of Brian Mbeumo to our team, and we've said about how he is more important to the team than Ivan Toney is, and it's games like this in which he shows his level of importance to the squad. I think Brian's been our best player for a long while and most important to the team as well. Obviously, we're looking at players like Pinnock and Norgard, and Jensen's had a good season as well. But comparing importance, Brian just sits top of that tree, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, he's been so important. And it's just such a shame that he had such a long spell out after that injury against Brighton because I don't know, it might be too far to say that we'd be like significantly further up the table, but with him in the team, it's a different dynamic. I'm not sure if we'd have seen that revert to a back five as often as we did, maybe if we had Brian available.
That just seemed to be the injury that broke the camel's back, didn't it? We seemed to be managing up to that point, and then he got injured, and it just fell apart from then. Then on.
Right, let's talk about some players. Sergio Reguilon was the one that I think garnered the most attention following full time on Saturday. He was unbelievable again. I think Brentford broke down his stats in terms of his duels won, his passes into the final third, the ground that he covered. More calls for him to be signed on a permanent deal, and we've spoken about it before, Dan. But I love the way that he comes over to the away end, and he was the first one to celebrate after we won that game. You can tell that he wants to be playing, and he's got a connection with the fans. Where are you with it? Because it is a difficult one. We've spoken about it before in terms of, you can't really have two first choice left backs at the club and keep both of them happy. When Rico comes back, you'd imagine that he'd slot straight back in. But Sergio, and I saw someone on Twitter say that maybe we could even have him as a second option at left wing or a first option at left wing, considering he's not that great defensively, but he can fucking whip a ball in with precision and pace. But yeah, where are you with it, Dan? Sergio Reguilon?
Yeah, he'd be a bit more of a traditional left winger. Throw back to like mid 2000s. But of course, it would be nice. It would be nice. I think we do definitely need to buy some cover at left back because Rico Henry is prone to the odd serious injury. But if Rico Henry is to be fit next season, I think it's very, very difficult to fit both of them in, especially if you want to get the best out of both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And, on the flip side, if you're saying, we want Reguilon is going to be first choice left back, and he does have some qualities which are better than Rico Henry. That's not deniable, especially going forward. Like I said, I think Henry defensively and Reguilon going forward is probably the perfect left back. But, we're talking about Rico Henry here. I don't think there's a Brentford fan really that wants him out the team either.
No.
He's our longest serving player now. I think we forget how good he can be on his day because we've not seen him in such a long time. And obviously he's back out on the grass now, so I'm expecting him to have a full pre-season and be ready to go. So it's very difficult. And obviously also the financial side, I don't know whether Reguilon would be willing to come down to more our wage bracket or, maybe clubs have made contact with him already. Maybe he's got another move, maybe back in Spain that he's looking at doing. So I don't even know if it would be necessarily attainable. But I don't think it will happen. But of course, it would be nice if we did find a way to fit him in somehow. But I just don't really see it.
Yeah, no, I don't see it. I think Rick Henry is the deciding factor, to be honest. And it's important that you mentioned the wage bill as well. From what it was reported to be on at United and Tottenham, it just doesn't fit our wage structure. We've got one of the lowest wage bills in the league. So it would be a massive step down for him in terms of the finances. Craig, I'll hand over to you for Damsgaard. Another brilliant performance. He's just really, really turning it on towards the end of the season. And I want to say, was that in a similar vein that he did last season as well? It was kind of this stretch, I think maybe kicked off against.
I think.
Yeah, but this is longer. And again, I can't remember him putting a foot wrong, really. Like he was fantastic.
He's really, really grown into the team, hasn't he? And I said it last week when we was talking about Damsgaard having his opportunities and taking them and taking the opportunity, because he has been fantastic for the last, I don't know how many games it is now, 10 games, 1 plus however many it was last time. But he's becoming one of those players at the moment that doesn't seem droppable. Yet we don't know what's going to happen over the summer. We don't know how he's going to deal with this break now that we're going to have. We know that he came to us with his injury and he didn't play for a long time because of it. Now we don't know what this break is going to do to him and the movement. Because obviously it was based on arthritis or something, wasn't it? That was what the injury was. And hopefully the fact that he's been playing so often and moving about so often, it means that it's freeing him up a bit and going into, well, has he been picked for the Euros? Have they done their squad yet? I imagine he will.
Probably will be.
He should definitely be going. So I hope that he doesn't get injured when he goes to the Euros and he plays well. And I see him being a consistent feature in the squad next season.
For sure. I think I wanted to speak about Tony again, but I feel like we've already done it and I just get bored of talking about him each week. I think it wasn't a good performance. Again, like I said, I think the away end was kind of waiting for him to make a mistake. He does have a chance. Well, maybe it's wishful thinking, but I said it earlier on. He does have a chance for a bit of a redemption arc. But the less we talk about Tony, the better, because I think we're preparing for next season anyway. And although it's good for my Instagram clips, it just gets boring talking about him after a while. I thought it was Norgaard's best game for a while, Dan. I want to talk about that in the context of one of my uncle who started taking his Brentford when I was a kid. He said he thinks that Janelt is actually the better player out of Norgaard and Janelt. Just purely because he's always available and he's Mr. Reliable, whereas Norgaard's prone to the injury, can miss spells in a season. But I don't know. For me, I think Norgaard is always he's similar to Janelt in that he's always a 6 out of 10, and sometimes he'll pop up with a blinder. But in terms of that debate, I don't think Norgaard's really droppable, especially because he's the captain as well. I feel like if we were going to strengthen the midfield, which I know the club wants to do over the summer, Norgaard's not someone we'll be looking to replace. I'm not sure that this midfielder that the club want to bring in is going to be a holding 6, purely because we've got Norgaard and we've got Janelt that can play in that position, and both of them seem as adept as each other. But I thought it was Norgaard's best game for a while, Dan.
Yeah, and again, obviously being injured, coming back, it's understandable that he might not be, at at his best. I think that's the reason he's been coming off recently after every game. He did come off again after about 70 or so minutes, and Janelt stayed on. I think, he's a captain, and he will continue to be the captain next year. So I think he needs to be in the team. I think when he's at his very best in terms of his interceptions and his ability to just calmly just win the ball back and lay it off, it can go unnoticed at times because it's just subtle. It's not, anything fancy. He'll normally pass it to Jensen, and Jensen will do the creative bits. But I think every team needs a player like him, and they work better with a player like him. And I agree with Janelt and his availability. And Janelt's another one that we need to have in the squad. And he's very useful to have when we get injuries in multiple positions. He can seem to cover it. And I'm confident with Norgard. And if Norgard does, every few months need a couple of weeks off, we've got someone there. But I wouldn't say he's a better player than Norgard necessarily. I mean, Janelt's also a few years younger.
Yeah.
And when Norgard eventually leaves, I can see Janelt slipping into that role for a few years, and we not really need to worry about it. And he probably benefits from working with him. But yeah, I think Norgard needs to stay in the team.
For sure. Anything else we wanted to chat about from the game? I think those are the players that I want to kind of single out and talk about in terms of their contribution to it. Anything else we want to talk about for the game before I ask a question that has been bugging me for quite a while now, but I thought I'd just do it because we're at the end of the season anyway, about players' chants, and it just came into my head against Bournemouth. But anything else before we get into that? Craig, anything else from the game?
Nah, nothing. Well, winning in blue.
Yeah, winning in blue. How could I forget? Yeah, the first win in blue. Fucking hell. Can't believe it's taken so long. Jesus Christ.
In the last game that we're going to wear it, we're winning it. It was written in the stars, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was written in the
We
stars.
should keep it for another year now.
Fuck off. No way.
Anyway, this question that I wanted to ask, I can't remember what chant triggered the thought in my head. But I did want to ask you boys, like, what do players have to do to get their specific song from the fans? Because I know it was the chant. It's the Sergio chant, right? And I think it's because the simplicity of the chant that it's just so easy to do. And it kind of stuck in his first game. I remember when he came on, I think it was maybe against City, his first game. But what do players need to do to get their own individual chant? Because I look at someone like Norgard, who doesn't have his own chant, or Pinnock, who has Pinnocks in the air, but no one really sings it. But do you think that a player getting their own chant is down to the quality of the player, or do you think it's down to the simplicity of their name?
Simplicity, yeah. We're going to say simplicity of the name, but Ethan Pinnock is a very simple name.
I know.
What I will actually say is it's down to the fans. A lot of fans are going to dig at me for what I'm going to say. Brentford fans are stupid. We are easily the stupidest fan base because any song that has more than 5 words in it, we cannot sing. We, as a fan base, we sing songs far too quickly as well. The only song that we actually sing at a reasonable speed is Hey Jude, whenever we sing that in the crowd. But everything else, Kevin Sharder's song. Yeah? Yeah, I don't need to go do. Like, it's far too quick, man. We need to slow down as a fan base. We need to slow down. Like, but you honestly post a suggestion on Twitter, or the GPG, man. They come up with some bloody songs, but you post a suggestion on Twitter and people are like, nah. You could easily come up with like a simple chant for like Christian Norgard or Ethan Pinnock. We could even change Ethan Pinnock's one, change Pontus Janssen's one to Ethan Pinnock. Like,
yeah, that's very true. That's very true. What were you saying, Dan?
I think Norgard does have one, but no one sings it. It's like Norgard's the best on earth or something.
Yeah.
No one sings it. I mean, Pinnock's one only has 4 words, so I think Craig is overestimating the ability of fans.
And it's still sung too quickly. Yeah, Pinnock's in the air. Slow down, boys. Slow down. Jesus Christ, we're not in a rush.
Yeah, I know. It's a weird one. Maybe I'll start making it. Go on, you go on, Craig.
I'll throw something out there. This is a bold shout. I do not ever want this to happen, by the way. Do you know how much a drum would help us as a fan base?
Fuck off. Piss off.
And the only reason I'm saying that is speed, because you would match the drum. You wouldn't match the other chants.
Well, we're Brentford FC. We don't need a drum.
I don't want it to happen. I will say it into the mic. I do not want it to happen. Do not want it to happen. But it would help us as a fan base massively to sing songs at a reasonable pace. But
Yeah,
please,
maybe.
please,
Who's
if
it?
you're watching this and thinking about bringing a mic to Brentford, do not do it. I'm sorry, a drum to Brentford.
Yeah, no, a drum to Brentford. Do you think we get
Bring a
Callum as the
microphone,
drummer?
yeah. Actually, bring a microphone, yeah.
Could we get Callum as the drummer? I think he'd do a good job.
El
What do you
Capo.
reckon?
Oh,
Yeah.
Jordan, mate, if you're watching this, El Capo Nugara, you'll know.
But yeah, no, it is a weird one. Maybe I'll start to make that into. I do get random Brentford thoughts that I don't include in the podcast just because it's not really to do with football. But maybe we should just like the random segment of the week where we just ask a stupid question or something to do with something that's not on the pitch. Might be something fun.
I had my stupid question last week. Would you take
Oh yeah,
European place if it meant getting relegated the next year? That was a stupid question, by the way.
Stupid question of the week. We could definitely rely on Callum for those.
Oh yeah, can we come and replay it right back?
We'll find out. We'll find out. We shall see. We shall see. I think we should also mention Josh Da Silva signing a new contract. I think it was only a year. I think the last one he on, there was an option to trigger it, and with him being out with an ACL injury, it made sense for him to do his rehab, and maybe he'll definitely get some time playing next season. I don't think he'll be ready for the start of the season, but certainly I'm hoping before Christmas it'd be great to see him back out on the grass. Considering, and we've had this conversation so many times about Josh Da Silva, but in terms of the player that he was when we came up from the Championship, he was right up there behind Ivan Toney in terms of the players that got us there, or got us into the position to be in the playoff final. And it was a shame in that Championship season that he missed out on the injuries, that he missed out because of the injuries. But we haven't seen Premier League Josh Da Silva really at any point, which is just such a shame because bags of potential, bags of ability. Frightening when he's on form, absolutely frightening in terms of that number 10 position, the way you can drop the shoulder and get past players with ease, made it look so easy in the Championship. We haven't seen that yet from him in the Prem.
What's happened to all the Ben Mee contract talk? Because I feel like that was coming about and now that's died down, but Josh has picked up again. So,
no idea
what's happening with that.
No idea, but I think we've kind of said already that maybe next season Ben Mee, maybe this was his last season at Brentford. I think you've said that before, Dan.
Played his anchor role.
Yeah, well, he'd be a better option than Zanka for sure.
Yeah,
but I think we've kind of all said, and it maybe that's harsh just because we haven't really seen too much of him this season. And obviously it's difficult to kind of judge any player this season just because of how different the lineups have been week in, week out. I mean, in terms of the different combinations of centre backs and full backs, there's been a lot. But yeah, Da Silva signed a new contract, definitely a good thing. Shall we move on to Newcastle? I think final game of the season. How are we feeling ahead of it, Craig?
I really couldn't care. I want us to win. You know what I mean? You want to win on that last game of the season, but it doesn't really mean much to anyone. Just gonna go enjoy the day. Hopefully we get some nice weather like we've had recently. Enjoy the day, see some people that we're not going to see for a little while, and then hopefully the football doesn't ruin the day out at the football.
Dan, how you feeling?
If we can get to 40 points, that's the guideline everyone says every year. Get to 40 points and you sure safety. I think that will be a successful season in the circumstances. And obviously Everton are playing Arsenal, so assuming Arsenal win, then the battle for 15th is ours. And that would be a good afternoon. And obviously, it'd just be nice to go one more time, just not have to worry too much about the football. And then obviously Thomas Frank get on the microphone at the end and we'll see what he says this year.
Yeah, it was a belt of a speech last year.
Just to remind people, I know we'll probably bring it up at the end, but obviously in the 78th minute, be prepared to be upstanding and give some applause to Thomas Frank and his family. 78th minute.
Yeah, for sure. I've got the lineup builder here and I want to caveat it with who would you like to see get a run out. I put Neil Maupay as one. I think he wasn't available for Bournemouth because I heard Thomas Frank say that his wife was giving birth in France, so he went back for the birth of his second kid.
He did post about having a baby, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So congratulations as well to Neil Maupay.
Yeah, congrats to Neil Maupay. I would like to see him start, especially if we don't end up signing him post-season. But what do you reckon for the back line? Do we want the same back line as Bournemouth?
Tristan Kramer to come back.
Tristan Kramer?
No, he's on loan at is he even our player anymore?
He played for the B team on Friday night.
He played for the B team?
On Friday night, he played for the B team, so he's back from Bristol Rovers.
Jisoo Kim Jisoo, whatever.
I don't even know if I'll be able to find him on this. Kim Jisoo, maybe? Nope. Maybe if I type in Brentford. Here we go. Have we got anyone here? This is great content, by the way, guys, for the people listening on Spotify. I'm sorry about this, but I've got a lineup builder on here. We get Finn Stevenson. There he is.
There
he is. We'll take him. I'd like to see him, considering we haven't seen any of him this
season. Finn Stevens at right back then.
He's got a playoff final to prepare for.
He might have a playoff final. Bring him back, Finn Stevens. Ryan Trevitt at right back.
I would like to see Trevitt play, to be fair. I'm going to stick Trevitt in. I want to see Trevitt because he's had a great loan spell at Exeter, and by all accounts, he's done really well there. I think he scored in the B team game the other day as well. So I'm putting Trevitt in. This is my lineup, right? I want Yarmo as well. I don't know how to spell his name, for God's sake. This is a terrible start, boys. There he is. Maybe
right wing.
Who do you want in the third midfield spot?
It's going to be got to be Norgard. Norgard's captain, so has to be Norgard.
We've got to have some experience around
yeah, we've got to have some experience.
Let me move this, make him central, and then I would like to see Neil Mo play up top. Are we accepting that, boys?
Yeah, I'd like to see Sharda as well because he's not at a start.
Sharda from the start. Down the right or the left? Down left.
The left, I'd say. Yeah.
Sharda on the left and Brian on the right.
And Wissa gets dropped. It's a bit harsh. But he's used to it by now.
He's had a good season. He's fine. Put him right back.
Who's going right back?
Hang on, you put Wissa in. Where's Brian?
Oh yeah, God. Oops. Sorry,
it's not your team, Craig.
Yeah, Spotify people are absolutely buzzing over this, aren't they? Content.
But I'll run through it for the Spotify and Apple listeners. Who are we putting him right back?
That's got to be Marcelo Roger, isn't it?
I reckon it'll be Bads this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
We'll stick him there. I think that the main players that I would like to see is definitely Yarmo, because there was a lot of hype about him at the start when he kind of filled in when we had the period where Norgard was out injured. And he did well at the start, and then there was a couple of games where he looked at maybe a little bit out of his depth. But the first couple of games, I remember maybe it was against Liverpool or Arsenal, and he looked comfortable in midfield, going up against some of the best midfielders in the league for sure.
That was Liverpool away, that 3-0 game.
It's easy when you're 3-0 down though. That's when he came.
Yeah, for sure. But didn't he start against Arsenal? I want to say.
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
and he didn't look out of place. Kim Jisoo, we haven't seen a lot of him, but I think he's quite highly rated by the hierarchy at Brentford, so it'd be nice to see him get a game. And I think his number one fan on Twitter, whoever has the handle, I can't remember his name now. Is it BFC Kev? Has him as his profile picture on Twitter, maybe?
Yeah.
And has been campaigning for him to start all season, so that'd be nice for him to shut up.
What about the Icelandic goalkeeper, Valdimarsson?
Valdimarsson. How do you feel about that, Craig?
Leave Mark Flecker alone.
How is he going to be?
Mark Flecker's got nothing to prove anymore.
Oh,
I think it's VALDI.
VALDI.
You're probably better off. There he is.
There he is. Right. And then Trevitt as well. I think Trevitt. I know that my mates listening to this will definitely want to see Trevitt because they've got a weird obsession with him. But I think he has done he has had a really good loan spell at Exeter. I don't know if it's going to be too soon for him to come back in maybe next season and push for a place in the lineup. But I'd imagine he'll get another loan to maybe a championship side this season. What about Paris Magoma, boys? I think did he win Player of the Season at Bolton or supported Player of the
Season at least? I know he won one of them, didn't he?
So it'd be good. I think I saw someone say that maybe it would be too soon for him and maybe a championship loan next year. But he looks good.
If Bolton win the playoffs, just send him back to Bolton again for another year. It's a place he's comfortable. It's a place he's played with players in front of their fans. He'd thrive at something like that. Send him back to Bolton for another season.
For sure. Right. Just for the people listening audio, we've got, I don't know when to Valdimarsson in goal, Mazarus level right back, Kim Jisoo and Nathan Collins in the centre back partnership, Sergio Reguilon at left back. Should we swap Sergio and Mads around to give Sergio a run out at right back to see how good he is?
See how good he would be.
We've got Yarmo in midfield with Christian Norgard and Ryan Trevitt, and then we've got Brian up top, Neil is the lone striker, and Kevin Sharder on the left. I think that'll be a fun lineup to end the season with. Probably get battered.
It's not going to
But
happen.
yeah, it's not going to happen. But it's just a bit of fun anyway. It's the last game this season, but that's who I'd like to see, boys. For the final time, well, not for the final time, but for the final away game, I think that'll be a good place to round up. I do want to, for people that are still listening, end of season plans. We've had 3 episodes that we want to get out sort of straight afterwards. Craig, I'll let you talk about the quiz, but I think we're going to do a Newcastle full-time episode and then kind of collate that with a end of season Ealing Road Awards / kind of season wrap, just ourselves. Then Craig, I'll let you tell them about the live quiz that we want to do.
Yeah, so we're going to try and host a live show where I will be your quiz host for the evening. What I'll do is I'll put together about 20 questions of events from throughout this season only, about the players, about the matches, about things that have happened during the games. Just a bit of a fun wrap up of the season. See how much you remember from it, because I'm certain I'm going to have to do some fact checking of myself before we go into it. But just have a laugh and a bit of a wrap up of the season.
Yeah, sounds good, mate. Sounds good. And then also, I have been in touch with Jay at The Athletic, and he's keen to come on and do like an end of season wrap as well, which will be a lot of fun. They normally do quite well. But yeah, those are end of season plans. We've got some stuff in the works for the summer as well in terms of interviews that we want to get done, special episodes with special guests. So I will keep everyone posted. Remember to follow the socials, especially for that live episode, because the last live episode we did, we obviously got the normal viewership from people just watching it back. But when we did it live, and it was probably my fault as well, I didn't actually promote it until about 20 minutes before we actually decided to do it. So definitely my fault. But this time I'm going to plug it all over the socials. We'll have a time, we'll have a date, and we want to make it interactive as possible, especially for the people playing in the comments as well. And hopefully get no abuse from Trevor this time from the GPG in terms of our viewership figures. But yeah, no, it's been good. We've had a good season. I was on our GPG thread that we normally post this podcast on. We were talking about sort of the numbers that we get. At the moment, we're still on about 1,000 if we win. It is going up though. In recent weeks, it is going up. And I feel like that is an effort from the people on the GPG. I think I said to a few people, the best way for us to spread is by word of mouth. So if you think the podcast is good, please do share it around with your mates. I was talking to a few people at Bournemouth who have heard of the podcast but hadn't listened to it yet. It's like, what are you doing? Listen to the damn pod, all right? We make some good content, 2 episodes a week, special episodes as well. Everyone that listens says that it's great. So please do. If one nice thing that you could do this week is share the Ealing Road podcast around with a mate. It's the best way for us to grow. The numbers do fluctuate, we win or we lose, but we want to start seeing a lot more people listening to us, because we think we chat a lot of shit sometimes. Callum chats the most shit. But this is the reason why he's not on sometimes. No, obviously I'm joking. It's good when we have a full house. We get the opinions of all 4 of us. But yeah, that's what I just want the podcast to keep going the way it is. We started to see an upturn in recent weeks, and we'd very much like it if that continued. But yeah, ahead of Newcastle, let us know in the comments. Does Thomas Frank deserve a statue outside the ground? Who impressed you the most against Bournemouth? Would you like to see us? Who would you like to see get a chance against Newcastle in terms of the players we've just listed? Let us know in the comments. The Ealing Road podcast will be back hopefully in the week with a preview of the Newcastle game. I've already sent around a few feelers, but as with last week, no replies as of yet. I think we're at the point in the season where people are kind of winding down. So I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't a Newcastle preview, but I will do my best to try and find someone, considering I haven't had a look at the table, but I feel like Newcastle have nailed a Europa League spot, and they can't get Champions League football now.
I think they could fall to the Conference Leagues. They're on them and Chelsea are both on 57 points.
Yeah, no, very true, very true. I think if Villa win tonight, that's them Champions League spots wrapped up. So yeah, we'll see. I'll see if I can throw a few more feelers around, see if I can get a preview episode. But if not, the Ealing Road podcast will obviously return for the Newcastle full-time show, and obviously our end of season awards too. In the meantime, though, remember to drop a comment down below with your thoughts ahead of the Newcastle game. Subscribe to the YouTube and Spotify channels, and also give us a follow on our socials. That's at the Ealing Road on Twitter and at Ealing Road Pod on Instagram. Chaps, for the penultimate time this season, it's been a pleasure.
Up the bees.
Up the bees. There we go.